Welcome to Be Real with Bobby Maximus and Joe Cebula. We are going to get right down to business today with some real talk. The summer's coming up, Joe, and everybody on the internet wants to know how to get shredded. That's the thing. I have a love-hate relationship with that word. On the one hand, I hate it because it just sounds so 3 easy payments of $9.99, magic pills, hacks. Like it sounds like the bottom bargain basement fitness program. Like this is going to get you shredded. On the other hand, it's a word I use. It's a word I like. It's a descriptive word. If somebody came up to me in the supermarket and said, "Man, you look shredded," I would have an ear-to-ear smile. And it is
I was just going to say that.
Right?
Yeah.
And it is very descriptive. Like if I said, "Hey, Joe, I met this guy today and he is shredded." You have a picture in your mind. You're thinking Brad Pitt in Fight Club. You're thinking Rocky and Rocky 3 or Rocky 4. I don't know which one he looked better in. You're
Rocky 4 for sure. WWE hold on. We could do the whole podcast on this. Rocky 4 for sure. How can you even hesitate?
You're thinking about somebody that has just an A-level physique. So we're going to dive right into this about how to get shredded for the summer.
And I think this is sorry, buddy. This is like what people want. This is what people will ask for when they talk about like, "Oh, I got to start taking my health and fitness seriously." Being called shredded is the goal. I mean, that's what they want. They want to be able to walk out to the public pool and have everybody go, "Look at how shredded that guy is." They want to be able to like go to the beach and turn heads. That's the wish, the dream, the goal of many.
But let's have a real honest talk.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to say what's the number one thing plaguing people today in the fitness industry, not even in the fitness industry, when it comes to health, it's obesity. It's being overweight. Like every time I turn on the TV, obesity is an epidemic. Look at the rise of these drugs, Ozempic and the other group that goes in that category. Yeah. Everything I'm seeing is aimed at weight loss. Like we have a real problem in America, in Canada, in Australia. Like I was shocked to find out that Australia is one of the most obese nations in the world. Yeah. But we have a real problem with obesity in this world. And everybody, not everybody, I'm not saying literally every single person, but everybody needs to lose a little bit of weight. Everybody is carrying a little bit too much weight. And if I'm 100% honest with you, Joe, I'm carrying too much weight. Like, yes, I'm big. Yes, I'm what the kids call shredded. Yes, I have abs and striations in my chest, but I don't know how it bodes for my health.
Right.
When I'm 45 years old and I'm going to be 50 and then 55 and 60, walking around at 245 pounds.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, especially with a good friend of ours having had a massive heart attack fairly recently. But just the notion that lighter bodies tend to be healthier bodies, just smaller. And like you said, if I'm walking around at 280 pounds, that's a lot of stress on the joints, on the bones, even on the digestive system, on the heart, on the lungs. If you can drop some of that weight, if you can get down and be like light as a feather, like, man, it just takes so much stress off your body.
Well, and I can promise you my mortality rates are way lower walking around at 215 than they are 242, even if I had the same body fat percentage.
Yeah.
So realistically, when you look at health, everybody, let's forget shredded. Forget I ever said that. Everybody needs to lose weight. That's a pretty universal thing. And what's the quickest way to look good? What's the quickest way to get camera ready? If I called you up, you work in the movie industry, Joe. If I called you up and said, "Joe, I got a huge movie role in 3 months. They've cast me as the villain in this. I want to look as big and as strong as I can on screen." Would you recommend, I'm going to give you 2 choices, A, to put on more muscle, or B, get lean and try to lose some body fat? Which would be the best way to look bigger on screen?
Lean, always lean.
You always look leaner. I would look bigger on camera being 218 and shredded out of my mind than 240 at a low body fat. That's just a fact.
Well, there's so much you do with the camera, right? Like you shoot from low angles, you can mess with the lighting, like that's all easy to control. But that like you said, seeing the striations in the muscles, seeing the edge of a muscle through the skin, like that's what wows people. When you look at Hugh Jackman in like Wolverine, everybody's like, man, that dude is shredded. He's not that big. And I mean, he's not even that strong. I remember he had a post up about finally making it into the 1,000-pound club on a powerlifting thing. And that was like a big deal to him because it was like he had some legitimate strength at last. Yeah. That was after he shot the movies.
Henry, when he was at Jim Jones when I was there, he came for Christmas. Henry is not an enormous man. Now, Henry has a beautiful physique. Yeah. Henry's got some real horsepower. Like Henry can front squat, Henry can bench press, Henry can row. Like I put him through a couple of IWTs and the man can move. Like he is pound for pound. I said this before. He might be one of the fittest men in Hollywood with how he trains. Yeah. I'll stand by that statement. I've said it before. I'll say it again. But he's not huge. Henry's, 6'1", 6'2", and he's somewhere around 200 pounds, 205 pounds. Like he's not 250, but when you see him in the Man of Steel with his shirt off, he looks enormous because he's got great proportions and he's low body fat. Jason Statham's another one. Jason Statham is not an enormous man. He's 5'10", 5'11", and about $175. But he looks unreal because of that leanness. So now that we've established all that, we got to figure out how we're going to get leaner and how we're going to do it quickly and safely and something that's actually maintainable long-term, Joe. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to go on a crash diet for 3 weeks, lose 10 pounds, and then fall off the wagon and gain it all back.
Well, and I want to stop on that point because I think this is a really, really good thing for our listeners. If you're an actor who's training for a role, you might do that, right? If you're like a person who's just doing this for your own health, your longevity, for your own ego, like whatever your own motivational reason, you don't want to hit that crash point. When Cavill was in Man of Steel, like there were some real challenges to filming that. And so he knew that in the middle of the shoot, he had to be as lean as possible because they were doing the shirtless scenes in the middle of 6 months of filming where he was, living in a hotel room and didn't have optimal training. So he has to make some different kinds of choices. So when people say things like, what's the Hollywood secret? What do the Hollywood trainers know? Well, they just know those shortcuts. They know those things that's going to get that person to that point on that day. And then after that, who cares? And so this will sound differently when we're talking about that longevity, being able to maintain those things, because we're not just interested in that one day and that one photo, that one shot that you're trying to get. We're talking about like, how do we get there and how do we stay there? So it may look different and we're not going to use the same tactics that you would use if you had that paycheck waiting for you based on your, level of shreddedness.
We're also not going to go down the complicated route. We're not going to be weighing and measuring our food because that's not maintainable for the real person. Now, listen, Joe, I will be the first to admit, if you really have a goal, you should be all in. You should be weighing your food. You should be tracking your food. You should be paying attention to your macros. But the reality is most people are not going to do that. If you've got kids, if you've got a job, if you're busy, and if you're in a position, you got to think about this. If you're in a position where you're overweight, you probably haven't valued your fitness. You're probably going from 0 to 100. It's going to be enough of a stressor paying attention to what you eat and trying to work out. That's going to be enough as opposed to then having to go the extra mile and weighing and measuring. Once you can get 90 days or 180 days or a whole year of showing up to the gym 3, 4, 5 days a week and actually watching what you put in your mouth, well, then maybe we could start worrying about weighing and measuring. And the beauty of that is if you're going from 0, if you're 20 or 30 pounds overweight, you can see a tremendous amount of success just by following a few simple rules. So we're going to simplify this for you. And we're not going down the drug route. Like I get that we live in the age where everyone's going to get TRT. We live in the age where people want HRT. We live in the age where there's all kinds of people taking Ozempic that should not be taking that drug, Joe, because the risk is not worth the reward for most people. But we're going to try to do this naturally because it is the safest way. And Even if you do go on some drug, you probably should have these habits dialed anyway.
Amen. Yep.
All right. So rule number one, you're going to ditch the processed food. Just get rid of it. All of it. Now, I know that the law of thermodynamics states calories in, calories out. Like theoretically, Joe, if we took your average person and had, them eat 2,000 calories a day in just clean, delicious food or 2,000 calories in processed food, they would probably lose the same amount of weight. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. Calories are calories. The issue we have with processed food is 2,000 calories of processed food is not going to fill you up. It's not going to make you healthy because we haven't spoken about health. We've only talked about weight loss. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel lethargic. You're going to feel empty. So you're always better eating non-processed food. So just ditch the processed food. Stop eating stuff out of a package. Start eating a diet of meat, seeds, nuts, fruits, vegetables. If that's all you ate, you would see a drastic change in how you look. There's
2 points that I'll add to that. And the first is that there is no food company out there that is going to make more money with you eating less of their product. So even if it says that it's healthy, even if there's a picture of a farm on it, if it says organic, whatever processed food you're eating is designed to be hyper palatable and designed to make you want to eat more. And then secondly, the real reason behind it has more to do with nutrient density. Because if you're training hard and you're trying to grow muscle and you're trying to eliminate fat tissue, you need to have vitamins and minerals. You need those things that don't bring calories into your body, but your body needs those things in order to operate optimally. And you're not going to get that out of your junk processed food. You need to get that out of your fresh fruits and vegetables, your lean meats. All the healthy, unprocessed stuff is where the nutrient bang for the buck really is.
You know what I love seeing? There's this new internet trend. I see it on the TikTok. I see it on the Instagram. I see it on the YouTube, the shorts, where people are saying, 1,000 calories isn't that much food. And they'll show like a Starbucks drink that's 1,000 calories, or they'll show a Starbucks drink and a cookie that's 1,000 calories. And then they'll show you what 1,000 calories gets you of rice, chicken, broccoli, carrots. Like it's just a huge amount of food. And so that's the problem with the processed food too. You can eat an entire bag of chips for 1,000 calories and still be starving hungry because you didn't consume anything. So
do you know how many calories are in a pound of bacon?
How many?
It's like 3,000.
That's huge.
But do you know how many calories are in a pound of strawberries?
Nothing.
150.
Yeah. It's a different thing. Even chicken, Joe, put a meal together the other day. And if you look at a chicken breast, you're looking at 200 calories. You look at half an avocado, you're looking at 100 calories. And then you look at like half a serving of rice. And I'm talking like one of those bags you can microwave or whatever. That's a good meal for 580 calories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a ton of food. If you actually weigh it, there's stuff there.
Yeah, so ditch the processed food. That's number one. If that's all you can do, and you're going from a place of drinking soda, having the Starbucks drinks, eating the chips, eating the chocolate, you'll lose weight just based on that. So that's number one. And you'll feel a lot better. We'll get to how you have to exercise a bit. But if you're not weighed down by garbage food, if you've got more energy, if you've got more zip, you're going to move around more. You're going to work out harder. And there's going to be an effect from that. So get your processed
your recovery is going to be better. Like everything builds off of that. That's why it's number one.
Yep. Number two. Eat a gram of protein per pound of body weight a day. Now, do you actually need this much protein? Probably not. Like if you look at, Joe, a lot of the recommendations, the IOC had a recommendation. I used to use it in our seminar book. But 1.3 to 1.7 grams per kilo a day is enough to look after your body. You're going to build enough muscle. You're going to have great hair, great skin, great nails. You can handle all the bodily processes you need to handle. There have been a couple of studies that said weightlifters will gain more strength and size on additional protein, but it was unclear whether those studies were isocaloric. And what I mean is, were they just getting extra calories because of the protein, or were they adjusting the macros, right? But the more protein, what that is going to do, it's going to satiate you more. It's actually pretty hard to eat your body weight in protein a day. And if you're having 200 grams of protein, 250 grams of protein, you don't have a lot of room left for refined carbohydrates or a bunch of fat. You just
that's why you always said this. I think this is the most brilliant. Well, I don't know if this is the most brilliant thing, but it's worth repeating. Nobody ever got fat on a diet of steak and butter.
Yeah, like you can't.
Because you don't have room for anything else.
And if you don't want to count, you don't want to weigh, you don't want to measure, here's what I'm asking for. Eat a protein-forward diet. So when you go out for breakfast and you can have eggs and sausage or pancakes, let's choose the eggs and sausage. If you sit down for lunch, let's finish all of our chicken or all of our steak or all of our sashimi before we go for the rice. If you sit down for dinner, I go over to your house and you've got ribs and you've got baked potatoes and you've got chips, and you've got all the other things. Let's eat the ribs before we go for the other things. And I've had this happen to me, Joe, where you sit down at a restaurant. We went out to eat in Montana. Mm-hmm. I think it was the Ale House, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what it was called?
It was at the Ale Works, yeah.
And they bring the bread to the table and then you start eating the bread. And then they bring the plate over and it's got, because it's Montana, you've got all the tater tots and you got the steak and you start eating the tater tots and then you finish your whole steak. If you do that in reverse and you eat the whole steak first, you're not that hungry anymore and you probably eat half of the tater tots instead of all of them and you don't touch the bread because you are full. So just eat a protein-forward diet. So just if you don't want to measure, just make sure that every meal has a high quality source of protein and eat that before you get to all the other side dishes. If you can do that, it will rewire how you eat.
Yes, agreed.
That's it. And a 16-ounce ribeye, Joe, you will be full.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if I look at building a meal, right, the first piece of that meal is the protein. So if I want it, the simplest meal that I can make, a one ingredient meal is just going to be like a steak. It's just going to be meat. The second thing I add is vegetables, because vegetables, you're not adding a ton of calories and you're getting all those vitamins and minerals. So meat and vegetables is the base that I build all my meals on. After that, like you can add some starch, you can add some fruit, like there's other things you can add to it. But the more you break it down, sort of by default, you're cutting out a lot of garbage. You're cutting out a lot of carbohydrates. And it's not that carbs are bad. You do need carbs, but you're controlling them. And it's the behavior side of it. Like you said, if you're full of meat, it's really hard to sit there and mindlessly snack on steak fries or whatever comes with it because you're just done. But in reverse, it's very easy to overeat.
Yeah. And I would say this, Joe, what you said, carbohydrates, it's not that they're bad, but it's really easy to overeat carbohydrates.
Yeah.
It's hard to overeat chicken breast. Like there's only so many chicken breasts a person can eat.
Well, I know this happens. I'm not the only one, but you get hungry late at night and you go to the fridge and you open it up and there's like leftover chicken sitting in there. That's not what you go for. You go over to the cabinet and you grab the crackers, the pretzels, you grab the carby stuff. That's what you're craving late in the day. It's like if you have a steak sitting there in the fridge and you're hungry, you should just eat the steak.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, Joe. There's these chips I love. They're made by the Boulder Company, and they're dill pickle. They did like a crossover with Grillo's pickles. They're pickles that I love, and they do a dill pickled chip. 9 chips is like 150 calories. You cannot eat 9 chips. Like you have 9 chips, and you're like, I want more, and I want more. And pretty soon you're through the whole bag for 1,000 calories, and you're opening up another one.
Wasn't that an ad from like Pringles? Once you pop, you can't stop.
And you can't. You just keep eating them and piling on the calories. On the other hand, you have even 2 chicken breasts, you're done. So it's not that the carbs are bad. It's not that the food's bad. You're just more likely to overeat them. So if we can eat the protein-forward diet, you're going to be way better. Number 3, let's limit our alcohol. Like, listen, I love a good drink every now and then. But drinking doesn't add, apart from enjoyment, it doesn't add anything to you physically. It's going to mess with your hormones. It's going to mess with your sleep. It's extra stuff that you don't need. And I have always said this, if you day drink, you're going to look like somebody that day drinks. Like think about this. The person that like goes on a boat on a Saturday afternoon and has 5 beers, they look like somebody that's out on a boat every Saturday afternoon drinking beer.
I mean, it's easy. Just go down to the river, the lake, or whatever, and just look around. You know.
You know, it's funny. We were in and out. This had to be a couple years ago, and my son made a comment. It's like, Dad, you're the most shredded guy in here, because he likes it. Thanks, dude. He goes, nobody else here looks like they even work out. I'm like, oh, thanks, Beans. Like, he's just pumping my tires. He goes, look how they're eating, though. And I look around. They've all got soda. They've all got fries. And he's like, look how you're eating. And I've got these things called Flying Dutchman, which are just patties and cheese. And it's true. Like the person drinking the soda, well, we're not talking about soda. We're talking about booze. But the person that's drinking Thursday through Sunday, they're not going to be lean. They're not going to feel good. They're not going to have energy.
Well, and there's like, I want to have a glass of wine with dinner for like heart health. Well, that's fine. But are you having an actual like measured glass of wine? Or are you having what Johnny Depp would call a mega pint, where you pour the whole bottle into one big glass?
That's also fundamentally different, Joe. Listen to what you just said. You spent a lot of time in Europe this summer. Having a glass of wine with your dinner is also fundamentally different than shuttling back 10 PBRs while you watch a football game on a Sunday afternoon. Those are fundamentally different behaviors. Notice we didn't say abstinence. We just said limit your alcohol. And watch your behaviors when you drink. Because with the beer comes the bag of chips, comes the chicken wings, comes the tater tots, right? I would assume that if you're drinking wine, you're having it with a meal. You're having it with steak. You're having it with a charcuterie board. You're having it with something genuine. Or you're just having it by yourself. When I think someone drinking beer, I also think snacks.
Yeah.
I think and listen, they're always catching strays from me, but I'm thinking Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yes.
Right? Like that's what you're doing. So limit your alcohol. So to recap, we've got get your processed food, eat a protein-forward diet, ditch the alcohol. Number 4, I want you to limit late-night snacking. Now, listen, all you science nerds are going to get all up in the comments, and you're going to say, well, whether you eat calories at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m., there's no difference in your body. True, I get it, but this is just behavioral management. You're not waking up for the most part and eating Reese peanut butter cups. You're not waking up and opening a bag of chips or eating a pint of ice cream. Now, I'm sure there's some people that do, but you're probably not doing that. Late at night, whereas you get in trouble. Your reserves are low. You're a little bit anxious. You're a little bit stressed. You're tired. You've had a long day. You don't feel like putting in the effort to create a meal at 9 or 10 at night. You're going to the pantry and you're eating packages. So it's behavioral modification for me. Just limit the late night. I would rather you late at night, Joe, eat a meal than start snacking, because snacking also implies you're having some empty food. Yeah.
And mindlessly, you're not really paying attention to how much you're eating.
You don't.
But
really
I like to use this. Like, nobody says you can't have ice cream, but have ice cream before 2:00 in the afternoon if you really want it. If it's late at night and you're craving ice cream, I can have it tomorrow. And I promise you, when you wake up tomorrow, you're not going to be craving ice cream anymore.
Well, and the question is, are you eating because you need nourishment? Are you eating because you're trying to achieve a goal? Or are you eating your feelings?
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening late at night. So just knock that off. So no late night snacking. That's rule number 4. And then rule number 5, you just got to be more active. That's it. Like you got to move. I'm not talking about working out. And this is the big myth where people come at me. Like you got to work out every day. And that's my fault for using the term working out. I almost got to change my branding to you got to exercise every day. But I need you to be more active. I don't know if it's 10,000 steps a day. I don't know if it's 12,000 steps a day. I don't know if it's a hard workout. I don't know if it's getting off your ass and doing your own landscaping, cutting your lawn, shoveling your driveway if you live in some godforsaken frozen tundra like, I don't know, Minnesota or something like that. But you've no offense, Joe. But you've got to just move around more. I did a massive cleaning of my house about a month ago. I think I told you the story. And I was up and down the stairs and up and down the stairs and up and down the stairs. And I was sweating. Like, I'm a fit guy, but you move around more and you clean with intent and you clean with purpose, you will burn a lot of calories, almost to the point, if you're active enough, you can't eat enough to cause any damage.
No, I know a lot of guys who work construction type jobs, manual labor type jobs, and they just eat and eat and eat, and they're just lean as a beanpole. And that's just because they're working. Now, are there trade-offs with that? Like, yeah, there are. If you can overdo it too, but that just goes to show it's a balance. And I think the key to what you just said there is the word more. So if you're usually walking 2,000 steps a day, do you need to go to 12? Well, no, just go to 3,000, go to 4,000, go to 5,000, like more. And if you're not seeing change, a little bit more. I've got this Apple Watch, tracks my steps for me, tracks my calories. If I remember to turn it on during a workout, like, I just have to do more.
Yeah, more stuff. But even, Joe, even if you weren't tracking, how about every time you pick this up and you talk to your friend on the phone, you walk around instead of sit down on your lazy boy or your couch?
Yeah.
How about every time you listen to a podcast, you just got to walk?
I've told this story in the podcast before where I used to work at like a call center job, and I had the wireless headset, so I could take a call and I would go walk around the boardroom table. But there's this thing that happens when you're actually active and you're moving, you're more engaged.
Yeah.
You're much more engaged in the conversation. You remember details better. You think better. If you just sit down and just shut off, you're not really having much of a conversation anyhow.
Yep. It's that simple. Like, just move. Even by my house, the grocery store is literally, Joe, it's a 7-minute walk from my front door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it seems a lot further than it is. I actually timed it the other day. I'm like, oh, I can walk here in 7 minutes. So if I have to just go pick up some eggs or just go pick up some milk, why don't I walk? It doesn't take that much longer than driving. A couple of minutes here and there, but just walk. If you can walk places, it makes it easier. Now, do I want you to be on a dedicated workout program? Yes. Do I want you to exercise hard? Yes, because I think there's all kinds of value from that psychologically and physically. But on days that you can't, or days that you won't, or days that you just have other stuff going on, just move around more. Just start accumulating volume. Makes it easy. People came at Michael Phelps because of his diet when he was swimming.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm swimming 7 hours a day. Yeah, I'm going to eat a box of Lucky Charms every now and then.
Yeah.
But there's also, Joe, and people come at me for this, and I don't really mean it like this, but you want to eat a package of M&Ms, and it's 1,000 calories. Hop on a rowing machine or hop on a bike and burn 1,000 calories first. Just pay for it. Now, people, well, now you're creating eating disorders and blah, 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 blah. I get it. But I'm just saying, if that's what you want, then just pay for it. Like, that's all it is. And when I look at somebody that's overweight, not a judgment on how they live, Joe. I'm not calling them lazy. I'm not calling them stupid. I'm not nothing like that. But when I see a person that's fat, when I see a person that's overweight, the only thing I think of is you're eating more than you're burning. That's just a fact. You are 100% of the time eating more than you're burning.
Yeah.
So something's got to change. You either got to burn more or you got to eat less. Like, you can't, there's that Mad TV skit. I don't know if you remember it. Eat less, move more.
Yeah. Yeah. No, can't I just take a pill?
Yeah. But it's literally that simple. If you are listening to this and you just ate less and you moved more, you would get leaner and you would lose body fat. I don't care if it's 300 calories a day less, 400 calories a day less, 500 calories a day less. And on the other hand, you burn 300 calories more, 400 calories more. You'd be shocked how easy this process is.
Keep in mind, like a 500 calorie deficit. So you cut your intake by 200 calories and you burn an extra 300 every day. That's a pound a week. That's 52
and by the way,
pounds a
that's
year.
nothing, Joe.
Nothing.
Remember I talked about those chips?
Mm-hmm.
There's 5 servings. I know way too much about these chips, by the way. I'm outing myself. Don't worry. They're made with avocado oil. So I'm eating literally a bag of vegetables. Potatoes and avocados is what I'm eating. But there's 5 servings in a bag. If you have 4 servings instead of 5, you're not suffering. And there's your 150 calories off your total for the day, right? And then maybe you have 1 tablespoon of olive oil for dressing instead of 2 on your sub. Well, there's your 250 calories.
Yeah.
And then how are you going to make up the other 250 calories for exercise? Go for a walk for 20 minutes?
Take a walk. Yeah.
Like do a little bit of landscaping, cut your own lawn. Like it's really not that hard to create a 500 calorie a day deficit.
Now, what's hard about it, because I'll give this to people, it's hard to do that long term because you might be good Monday, you might be good Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you might be good for a week. And then you decide to go out and eat an extra 3,000 calories and you kind of undid the last week of work. So you've got to get it dialed in and you got to be able to maintain it. And the bigger the deficit, the more wiggle room you have. Because I know bodybuilders, I know professional, like bikini competitor bodybuilders who the only reason they actually do long cardio is because if they burn an extra 1,000 calories, they can eat an extra 1,000 calories. It's just giving themselves wiggle room.
Well, how many times does that happen to you? Where you're great Monday, you're great Tuesday, you're great Wednesday, you're great Thursday, and really you're only creating 500 calorie deficits. And then it's like, I've been good all week. I deserve this tonight.
Yeah.
And it's your bourbon.
I just need a night of not being under control. And well, you just undid it.
And it's with your rack of ribs. And then you just undid all that work. And I see that so much, Joe, where I was so good Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but you weren't as good as you think you are. You weren't great. You were just good. And then you have that day where you just really let loose. And it is so easy to pile on 3,000 calories.
Yes.
Like if you're eating a fatty meat, if you're eating a rich carbohydrate type thing that's a little bit processed, it is so easy to pack on weight. Cheese is another.
You end up becoming like a junkie going through a relapse where it's like, then you have that one bite of chip and then you got to eat the whole bag because you're like, I can't have these around the rest of the week. And so you start in your mind, you convince yourself that that's what you have to do. The way to be successful is to eat the whole bag of chips all at once, and then I'm good for a while. But guess what? You've already done the damage, and you're constantly like rewarding the bad behavior. My
favorite saying from you is that there's no pizza shortage.
Yeah.
Right? There's one piece of pizza left, and you got to eat it. Like, no, I can't leave that. I got to eat it. One of my favorite cheats is I make these. There's Snake River Wagyu sliders. Wagyu beef is fatty, so it's high in calories. And 4 of these sliders, and they're small, they're about 2 ounces each. But they'll set you back about 250 calories if you top them with cheese. So now for 4 sliders, which you can just suck right back because they're small, it's only 8 ounces of meat and a little bit of cheese, you're 1,000 calories deep.
Yep.
And then you get a bag of nacho chips. Now the ones I use 2 brands. There's Gilly Loco, which are made with coconut oil. And then there's these ones called Masa, which are done with tallow. It's all organic, non-GMO corn, whatever. Like they pass the food purity standard. But you melt some shredded cheese on those in the microwave and eat a bag of them. Well, now you're like 4,000 calories deep from a meal. Yeah. And it's really not a huge amount of food, Joe.
Yep.
Now, if that's your Sunday and Sunday's your cheat day, and you also had the pancakes for breakfast and the sleeve of Oreo cookies for lunch and the bag of chips, like you can have a 6,000 calorie day and not even blink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like drink some
and again,
melted cheese.
We're trying to create like a 3,500 calorie a week deficit. And you just ate 3,000 extra calories that
you undid
day.
it. And then you wonder how you've been so good for 6 days a week because your recollection, your brain's telling you, I'm good 90% of the time. Well, really, you're not. It's kind of a trick. So if you can do these 5 things, we're just going to recap and then we're going to bounce. I don't even remember what I said. We got ditch your processed food. We got to eat a protein forward diet. You got to limit your alcohol. You got to get rid of snacks, especially late night snacking. You do more activity. You do those 5 things. I promise you, you will be leaner. You'll lose more body fat. You'll be healthier. You'll have more energy. You're going to be happier. Like across the board, great things are going to happen.
I love it.
It's that simple. So listen, get to work. Now, one more thing. We didn't inundate you with ads. I know I name dropped some brands, but these people aren't paying me. I wish they did. No. So if you're listening, if you're from the Boulder Chips, send me them all. If you're from Gilly Loco Chips, send me them all. If you're from wherever, send me PBR. You want to send me a check? Send me a check. I can't promise I'll drink it, but just send me a check. I'm fine with it. But we didn't inundate you with ads. The way you're going to pay for this knowledge is you're going to share this podcast with other people. Just share it. If you shared it with 10 other people, that's it. Just send it a little link and say, hey, listen. Actually, be careful who you send this with, because if you send this to your wife, she's probably going to slap you. Right? And by the way, ladies, it's okay for you to send this to your husband. Just bear with me here. Men, never walk up to your wife when she's in the kitchen and grab her belly and shake it and say, man, you really need to lose a couple of pounds. But ladies, you do that to your guys, totally okay. If he gets upset over that, he's being a baby. He's being too sensitive. So isn't that how it works, Joe?
Sure. Yep. We'll tune in next week. We'll bring a marriage counselor on. We can talk this through.
No, I mean, but this is a real thing. This is a real thing. Like if you were a guy and you said that to a woman, you'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
If you were a woman, you said to me, totally okay. You're just looking out for him. That's the way it works. You know what I mean? Or you could be like my grandmother. Call me skinny all the time, Joe. She is actually 100% responsible for my severe muscle dysmorphia in my 20s. I'm walking around here 260 stacked. She's like, look at you. You're skinny.
Skinny.
Need to eat more. Anyway, share the podcast. Share it with 10 people. Great information. It would help us. It will help you. And thank you for tuning in again. Real info from real people, the Be Real podcast.